You're watching Rock Shop Live, brought to you by Stewart Travel Guitars. See the incredible stowaway travel guitar at stewartguitars.com. Microphones for Rock Shop Live are provided by Rode Microphones. Now, for Music Gear Network, here's your host, guitarist Eric Broadbent.
Hey everyone, it is the weekend. Happy Friday to you all. Welcome to Rock Shop Live. Hope everyone's having a fantastic weekend. We've got a great guest here to kick off that weekend with you. Somebody we've been working on for a better part of a year. Or, you know, with patience, good things come, as they say. From KISS, from Grand Funk Railroad, from Union, from so many other acts that we'll be talking about throughout the evening. Mr. Bruce Kulick and Guitar Hack. How you doing, gentlemen?
We are good. Thank
good.
you so much. I didn't know it took a year to get me on here, but that's exciting. It makes it more urgent, I guess.
We've been working on it for a bit. It's been a while.
That's good.
But we want to thank you. I mean, you took some time off tonight. You're rehearsing literally tonight for KISS Kruise, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. But I mean, we do appreciate that immensely. So it's good to have you here. We have a bunch of your fans here tonight. And the reason why I brought my buddy Guitar Hack on the show, I mean, I'm a major KISS fan, but I have to pass over the torch to, I would have to say, the world's biggest KISS fan. And a big fan of your era as well too, Guitar Hack. And it's funny because one of the things we'll talk about as a common thread tonight, you've got a nice Les Paul in your hand, or you had it a moment ago.
Oh, I'm leaning on it. Actually.
Yeah.
It's here. This was the one I just featured on Facebook recently.
Yes.
And Instagram, yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that in great detail tonight. Well, he pushed me into Les Pauls. I mean, I've always said a guitar player needs to have at least one Les Paul in their arsenal over the years. I'm turning 51 this year, and I got my first Les Paul, real deal Les Paul, and I love it. I've never been happy.
Get that cherry sunburst behind you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's pretty.
It's a lot to do with him, so I have to thank him and our buddy Brian Cote as well too. So listen, I want to welcome a bunch of people to the show here. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe right now. We promise to work very hard to keep you as a subscriber. And that's what I want to talk about. The other day, you shared a really, really cool video on Facebook. You know, you're talking about the 53 Les Paul, which you have in your hands. It was converted. Tell us the story about that. And we're going to go through some more Les Paul discussion in a moment as well, too.
Well, everyone knows if you're really knowledgeable about the history of Gibson guitars, and especially of the Les Paul, even though Gibson was around in the late 1800s even, certainly the very, very first model that Les Paul lent his name on that they introduced was actually a gold top. And in some ways pretty primitive, which means the whole, finish was gold. The pickups were very different, came with a very weird long, they call a trapeze type bridge. They were very awkward. There was no fine tuning on it. The neck angle was slightly different as well, okay? So, but the woods and the concept of a mahogany body with a maple top and a rosewood fingerboard and this kind of, the headstock was basically like this, which you notice this one has a logo a little low. Gibson moved those around during their entire history probably. But, the particular introduction of that guitar, it had its imperfections, but the most magical part of it, I feel, was the woods they were using absolutely were of the same, I'm not positive to say the same batch as when they were making 58s and 59s and 60s and all, but similar, okay, to the point where the flame tops sometimes were revealed when people would do these conversions, taking a early gold top. Now, you don't want to do that to, like, say, a 57 gold top, because by then they did the humbuckers. It was a tune-o-matic and a stop bridge, so they already evolved. The neck angle was right. And I'm not, believe me, I know a lot, but I know there's so many guys out there that are unbelievable, gearhead about a Les Paul, that they know every spec and every year and every change. But the important thing is the general concepts of this guitar was converted. Actually, when it was first gotten, my brother got it down on 48th Street, kind of in about the late 70s, I would say, or 77-ish, something like that. And then it already was converted, and it had that double PAF, which is very nice, the white-looking one. And those are actually very sought after. The other pickup actually wasn't a PAF; it was possibly a patent number or a T-top. The finish on it was not gorgeous like this. Okay, it was a very kind of like, it just didn't really look like. There's a picture on Facebook when I posted, because I remember having photos of it once I owned it. And I didn't know really what to do with it. Otherwise, when my brother wanted to sell it, I realized, no, I'll, whatever they're going for, I'm giving it to you. I want it, And then in time, it evolved, meaning, first of all, I had it refretted because it needed that. Instead of medium jumbo frets, which made it really playable. But I did find another PAF for it, this is before the prices went insane on that. Okay. And I think maybe one of the bridge parts were nickel and period correct, but and one wasn't, but I found one. Again, I'm looking I probably would have gotten the guitar somewhere in the middle 80s, maybe around the Crazy Nights period. And I'm sure the parts weren't as expensive as they got later on, of course. So anyway, the conversion already happened, but this gorgeous paint job only happened thanks to Paul. Now, we got a little bit involved with Gibson, and Paul was working and playing with Les Pauls and Hot in the Shade, if you remember.
Right.
It's funny how both of us as guitarists, at least in my era and throughout their careers, they go through all those, guitar years where they work with this company, that company, change. And unlike a guy like Slash, which is pretty well known as a player for, just playing a Les Paul, and the rare picture of him with something different. I had a lot of fun with a lot of different guitars. My early Charvels, then it went to ESPs, and then a BC Rich. Paul big on the BC Riches, but there was a period where Paul was like, "Yeah, I want to play a Les Paul," and all of a sudden we're visiting the custom shop in Nashville, and we even did a gig for them at one of the NAMM shows that happened in Nashville during the summer. I shared that not long ago on my Facebook too. It was pretty cool because I specifically brought out, not this one, but I brought out a few other Gibsons that I wouldn't usually tour with.
Right.
But Tom Murphy is one of those very famous. I'm sure your gearhead friend has heard of him. He's, he can be hired to do more currently. He does this kind of like he's independent now, and I don't think he's like only working for Gibson. But back then, he was the guy that was helping Gibson really establish this fantastic, way of doing finishes. Some of them aged because relic-y things have been very popular for a very long time.
Certainly.
But honestly, when Paul said, get it to Gibson, I know who you should have painted or whatever. So he got a hold of it, and I remember maybe 3 months later, it came back, and the finish was just gorgeous. First of all that flame came out. Like, everyone should know that's watching, if you don't know already. The gold tops, well, it wasn't going to be a see-through finish like a sunburst would be. So it didn't matter if it didn't book match, okay? And everybody knows that a proper Les Paul top, obviously it's not so critical when it's not a grainy finish, but the really like $300,000 59 Les Pauls that everybody drools over, it's going to have a very defined, probably chevron type top, or it's always book matched in the center, the way great violins were done and everything. And that was the beauty of the 59s and the 60s and all. But this is off center. Everybody can probably see that. How it's up this way is where the change is. But what's amazing about it is look at the Michigan maple, which is this flamey wide, kind of thing. And especially the grain around the, tuning pegs are incredible. I'm trying to get the, so you get what I mean? That kind of thing is really nice. But again, they didn't pick the wood for that. So here's some makeable. Here you go. Now we're painting it gold. And sadly, what's happened to a lot of the gold ones. They've turned green, and they change, and they get really scary looking, to be quite honest. So the beauty of Tom doing this obviously made it a real guitar. This is like kind of one of my favorite rather, like Cherry Sunburst kind of, And of course, the rest was painted properly, and he gave me a cool serial number, and we I think we got a little better tuners on it. They're not the original ones, but that's okay. The thing's not all original, but the wood and the tone of this guitar is always been there, and that's part of the mojo of the wood from those years, But the one last thing before we move on with it, it's kind of ironic that I was invited to do this really cool vintage guitar show in Atlanta called the Atlanta Guitar Show from these guys called Grinning Elk. They're a very good online store that I've known the guys there, Lee and Ray, for many years. So anyway, I did some, clinic performances for them. But he was there. He was a guest, Tom Murphy, okay, because he'll show up at shows like that. People all know he's just like the guy, right? So he has his own booth. He has all this history with Gibson, but he does a lot of the restoration, not so much the restoration, the refinish, the aging process. He's still involved with Gibson from what I understand. But of course we started to chat, and actually I ran into him after he was having dinner, and I just, Lisa was like my wife, you got to ask him, because all these years I always regretted that I never got a COA from him. Even though I don't want to ever let go of the guitar or anything, and I know what happened. But there's just something about when you have it on the guy's letterhead that, I painted this guitar, here you go. And he was so kind. Of course, he provided it for me, and I showed a copy of that on Facebook. Yeah, it was real cool. And we took I took a picture with him, and he remembers the guitar really well, and that's crazy because it had to been like 92 or something like that. That we're talking about this stuff, or 91, and that's really remarkable, So that was really great. And recently I shared it because I've been doing this monthly, a guitar related to my KISS years from recording, touring, or photographed or whatever. And I don't have all of them. I'll be honest with you. I went through so many of those guitars, so many tours. I wanted new this and that. Some of them, just didn't behave. And back then I wouldn't have thought, it doesn't matter if the neck is not right. I got to keep it, because in 20 years, 30 years, people are going to want to see it again, or what, and so I'd let go of them, for various reasons. Some got stolen, some went to Hard Rocks and things like that, which, even though, I don't own it anymore, but I do appreciate it as on a wall to be shared, the public can enjoy and go like, oh, wow, look at that. I remember that guitar, that kind of thing. So I wish I had them all, but I have enough that I can stay busy for a while, monthly for quite a while yet, and share a guitar, maybe talk about the connection with what I did in KISS with it, and maybe play a little bit with it, and something maybe connected to the guitar and what I did it for. So I know I was playing Car Jam on the Facebook post, because I know I used this guitar, and it appeared on a few things, probably from Crazy Nights, possibly, but definitely Hot in the Shade Forever. It was rhythm guitars on that one, and probably other parts. Revenge used in various spots, but I don't have production notes for that. Carnival Souls, I actually have the production notes, which I did share recently when I was talking about my 56 Les Paul Custom. That also was part of my history. And I noticed there'll be rhythm guitar for I Walk Alone was on this, and I know there was a solo and I Confess on this. I didn't get into all those details on Facebook, so you're getting some exclusive info here. But I've been archiving as much as I can to really relive everything I did, because it is fascinating to me. I guess I've grown very warm to all of it, and I know how much it means to the fans, and I think they like that I care so much about it.
Exactly.
There was a time I was not so sure I want to listen to that album or this thing or watch that video, and now I'm like, bring it on! I want to see it.
Yeah, I think it's a great series. I was looking at probably about 5 or 6 of the guitars of the month. They're really, really awesome. And I mean, fans that and I can imagine what you're saying too. Without production notes, sometimes it might be hard to remember. I mean, for you with amplifiers, it's always a combination of a JCM 800 or 900 or something. But I mean, guitars, it could have been anything. So very hard to remember all those details. So the more it's kind of neat. You're sharing it with the fans, but at the same time, you're almost preserving it for yourself too by doing these videos.
Of course.
Yeah.
And that's part of, like, if I move forward with a book, which I've talked about and the fans have asked for, I want it based more on, there was a while on the website when websites meant more, if everybody understand. But right now, social media kind of clips website, but you'll go to the website to see where someone's playing or buy a merch item or whatever. But honestly, I was doing kind of like a review story, a recap of various albums, and then the subsequential videos, tours, and I would find my stuff that's related to it and share some of the best parts of that. And I remember a lot of those blogs, they were almost more blogs than a website thing, but a lot of that was I remember the reaction was great. I thought wait a minute, I need to, that would be like the meat and potatoes of a book. Yeah, of course, there's other things I'd love to share about my career, but to be able to remember how I felt at the Rise to It video, when all of a sudden, why is Gene and Paul? What are they doing? Why are they doing makeup? What's going on here? You know what I mean? And me and Eric looking at each other and going how do you feel about it, Eric? And Eric going wait a minute, I was in makeup. I should be there too in makeup, maybe. You know what I mean? And the controversial of well. But then again, they're trying to make believe it's 1976 or 7 or something, not necessarily 1980, which was Eric's makeup time. Yeah, you know, I mean, there's all that, you know, and there's so many amazing, you know, things I do remember, and I love when the fans share what they know or where they saw me or a photo, and that kind of clicks something in my brain. Or I have a lot of the clippings, and I've saved so much stuff and scanned so much, and I've archived it to the point, and I've shared it with a few trusted friends of mine who are actually, of course, uber fans, if you know what I mean, because I want it protected. I want like you know, it's rare stuff. So I feel I also can totally trust them having it, you know.
Certainly.
But I got to admit that every time I look at that Metal Edge magazine, I go, oh yeah, oh right, I took that picture with Bon Jovi at that party. Oh yeah, I remember this with Fred Coury. This is so cool. Oh, look at Eric there. We went to the premiere of Bill and Ted or whatever. Oh, I think he got really sick after that. Whatever it is, even if it's a memory that has some, you know, a sadness to it, even it's still, you know, it's something to make me have a better overview of that magical 12 years of work. Even though all I was doing was the best I could, I really had no idea that all these years on, it would mean so much to the fans, and they just really respond fabulously, and that just validates it more. That I want to dig into it more, and I want to relive it more, like you were saying, Eric. You know,
exactly. So, well, I don't want to put KISS and Star Wars in the same sentence per se, but we could for a second, because Star Wars is timeless. You know, and the KISS is timeless as well too. I mean, you know, obviously with the makeup thing, that was a great idea to preserve, you know, the youth. I mean, they're kind of an anonymous behind the mask kind of thing. But Star Wars will live through us forever. And as you knew during your time with KISS, and you're watching KISS now, and before your time, it'd be, you know, moms and dads and their kids. Now it's their grandkids showing up. It's like 3 generations coming to a show. So it never ends.
Well, let me tell you my connection that I've used as an analogy with Star Trek. Star Wars.
Yeah,
rather.
No problem.
So we all know, you know, the Star Wars, you know, certain movies that came out, and it was just like, it was unbelievably successful, right? But then there was all that, the huge lull, and I can't remember how many years it was, but it was certainly long enough that when it came back, it was huge again, you know? And I kind of had this theory of roughly like that almost 20-year pop culture cycle thing, right? So the reunion tour, which I would, believe me, every year I was in the band, I was like, well, this thing could end in a year now, you know, they put makeup back on, and I'm out of the gig. And I said that probably in 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, you know, on and on. And then there'd be little rumors, you know, you know, Ace just spoke to, you know, Gene or whatever. And I never knew really what would happen. But then there it goes, Father Time, clock goes by, another year I'm in the band, another album, another tour, another whatever. But then when the inevitable happened with MTV Unplugged, which was that catalyst where they wanted a reunion of Ace and Peter to make it like a big event. They're looking for ratings. They're looking for whatever. And it was a big score for KISS to be on MTV. MTV already was morphing into grunge and other things and getting away from, you know, whatever you want to call KISS at the time, which you could fault it for being a hair metal band. So why would MTV want it? But the main guy behind it, Alex Coletti, who was a fan of my era too, was very clear, like, no, we're going to get Ace and Peter, and this would be cool. Anyway, Peter jammed with us at one of the conventions, you know, which is how Bud really was the you know, that whole concept came from that anyway. But of course, on a grander scale laid out in this gorgeous Sony Studios in New York, filmed so professionally. I am so proud of that performance, you know, and Eric and myself know that was, you know, for that era, that was a great bookmark, you know, of what we were able to contribute to Gene and Paul. And then we covered all the eras, you know, too. But anyway, when it forced the reunion tour, you know what I mean? Because then people got wind of it, and then they were getting offers, and they were like, we ain't getting any younger. It's kind of funny how many years on, and they're having the same argument. We're not getting any younger, so we got to stop soon, you know. But back then it was like, well, let's give it a shot with Ace and Peter. And you know what happened when they, you know, put it on sale? It just was sold out, and that was it. And I kind of looked at that more about that pop culture, the way things go in those cycles, you know. And look at how Star Wars has done it again. You know, they got hot again, and then they got quiet, you know what I mean? Then they came back and kind of rebranded it, redid it. Now you got new stars and great new stories, and even if, and no matter how much they want to link it to the past, it's still moving forward in an exciting way. And then, you know, if you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to bring your kid, and they're going to be like, oh, you know, it's really incredible. But KISS, staying on point more with KISS, remarkable band to be associated with for me because of the unique nature of it being continued on with generations. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
I don't see it. Of course, you see it with the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and the Who and other major, you know, acts. Hendrix will never be forgotten. But KISS has actually never stopped all those years, which just
True.
You know, intensifies it so much. The Stones, obviously, you know, it's not just people in their 60s and 70s seeing them. Okay,
Of course.
and but again, there's really not scores of those kinds of bands to be associated with, especially from the rock genre. There's maybe just a handful like that. And let's face it, even a band as iconic and huge and worshipped by many as Led Zeppelin, I don't know of a Led Zeppelin Expo, you know, convention.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Or a Led Zeppelin cruise, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost
Here
like a
they are
Comic-Con.
going out, you know, creating the 9th one, and they'll probably could do a 10th, and who knows how many more. So it's really such an iconic, unusual phenomena is the best word I could say. But when it comes to pop culture and things like that, you can never second guess it. You know what I mean? You just can't. You just have to accept it. It's there, and I'm so glad that you know, I had that footprint in that band, because I see how much my years meant to many of these fans of the band, and of course the ones that are just diehards for the makeup. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of respect for that too, and I loved it when we did cover some of those songs. But I also know of how many fans just really love, you know, the non-makeup years, and it means a lot to them.
You know, it's funny, a perfect kind of marriage for KISS and Star Wars. I'm just curious. I wonder why Gene Simmons hasn't bought Star Wars yet.
I think that might be even out of his price range.
It could be.
I think a little company called Disney bought it.
Yeah, that's right. Little company. We joke about that. We talk about KISS all the time on the show, and it's always in the best, you know, light with Gene Simmons. But I mean, we love him to death, and there's actually a question on the itinerary later on about that as well too. But two things I want to do here quickly. We're gonna talk to you about the next Les Paul again in a second, the 56 Les Paul. And then Guitar Hack has a question for you here as well too.
Finally, let's hear from Guitar Hack.
Yeah. So actually, why don't we do that question now, Guitar Hack?
Okay.
Well, actually, no. Wait. Before you do that, I would love you to break the ice and tell him the story how you met Bruce a couple different times before, because that's a great story. Start with that first.
Well, you met millions of people, so I don't expect you to remember me, Bruce. But I ran into you, I don't know how many times in Toronto. I'm from Toronto.
Okay, I love that city, by the way. So.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I mean, every time they had those conventions in the early 90s, I met you there. I met you one time with John Corabi when you were doing the Union thing.
Right.
Got photos with you. And then later on, actually, I dug up the picture today. 6 years ago, you were playing at the Casino Rama here in Aurelia with Grand Funk.
Yep.
And I was with somebody who bought one of your guitars, and we went up to your room and checked it out and played around with it a bit.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Is the tattoo guy? The guy who's got the tattoo thing, or is it a different guy?
No, he's not a tattoo. I'm a tattoo guy, but he wasn't a tattoo.
Oh, okay.
But but question I had for you anyway was, and I was trying to think of a question that you haven't heard, so I don't know, maybe you've heard this one, but so in your tenure with KISS, since we're talking about KISS, you know, obviously you started off with Eric Carr, God rest his soul, and then you went on to play with Eric Singer. Now, how did you find the difference in the band, or what difference did you find in the band with the two different drummers, and how did you, if you had to make any kind of adjustments as a player, like playing with one as opposed to the other? You know,
and it's a fair question. Honestly, I mean, I've worked with a lot of drummers throughout my career, a lot of great ones too, but you got to remember that even though you would think like I would have to adjust or the band would have to adjust, but the band kept evolving. Okay, by the time we asked Eric Singer to be involved, and we knew Ezrin agreed, and Gene and Paul really well, you know, he did Paul's solo tour, so that was going to be very helpful for him to walk in. But his playing was what Revenge was going to require, because at that point it wasn't about finding a drummer for KISS. It was about recording Revenge and making those songs sound amazing. That was the priority going on. So he actually got the studio gig first, if you get what I mean. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then when we realized, oh, this guy, well, he's got blonde hair, and then I let Gene Paul make those decisions. But they saw it as a little something fresh and different, and they didn't get too crazy about it. Obviously, when he became, the Cat, it that changed. But it's a different thing. Now he's in the makeup outfit and that character. So, but for my era with Eric Singer, I didn't have to adjust anything. The material was challenging. We were working with Bob Ezrin. Mm-hmm. And if anything, though, Eric always did bring, his take, but he never, like myself, I felt that if I'm going to step in someone else's shoes, I'm going to be respectful of the important stuff that's there, but then kind of make it my own. And mm-hmm. Eric Singer's totally a pro, where he played with all these people from, working with the Black Sabbath guitar player to Montrose to Alice Cooper,
Gary Moore.
Ford, what was that? Gary Moore, Brian May. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's just like, he's really such a versatile. And Paul uses him even with that Soul Station thing, which is B music. Mm-hmm. Eric's a tremendously versatile, talented drummer. So in a way, he was still able to incorporate all of his ability into, let's say, Watching You. But the one thing that I love about Alive 3, for example, which is, I'm not going to call it underrated. I know many fans love it. And it's hard to even compare when you had, the power of Alive and Alive 2, because, how much they meant to the success of KISS and all the fans growing up with them. But Alive 3, I always call it, that's the supercharged kind of version of a live KISS record, because Eric's doing the big double bass drums, everything sounds really huge, and I like the way he would play the vintage stuff. I did, and mm-hmm. his enthusiasm to the band was incredible. But again, in the sense of, Eric Carr, what a powerful, incredibly musical drummer he was.
Oh, yeah.
There was very little on my end or anyone else to adjust. One thing that no one should blame Eric Carr for was the tempos of like Animalized, okay? That tour and everything. That's the way the band wanted it. Paul and Gene, everything, we were a lot younger and everything should be fast and exciting. And
well, that's interesting, because a lot of people said, why is he playing so fast?
Very fast.
That was a huge criticism.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense, but it was them running around on stage and all that energy and excitement and this kinetic like wildness going on. We're also young enough to do it pretty well. But I'm listening to it now recently, and I'm like, no. This is like 10% too fast.
Yeah.
And we were in 442, which is crazy. You know what I mean? So everything was out of control. But think about how long that is, almost 35 years ago.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I mean, I don't have any children, but if I had a 35-year-old kid, he's seen a lot already, right? You know what I mean? That's how long it's been,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the regular tuning plus that tempo, I mean, it would really sound a big dynamic, because slower and tuned down lower just has such a big kick, right? But that's cool. I get it.
I mean, the tempos on Alive 3 are all very reasonable. There's nothing there that's ridiculous. But there was something about, I remember when they gave me the tape to learn. I mean, this didn't happen just from my Animalized tour. I think the Creatures one before or something, when and that's when, of course, Vinny was on the live gigs. I thought also everything was just like way too fast. It was crazy. Anyway,
hard to keep up sometimes. I can imagine you look back at some of those too, over time, like, how was I even playing that fast? I mean, because you just focused on it, right?
Absolutely. I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean? So,
and
I run into that now. I mean, I've revisited some songs from the first couple of records and going like, what the hell was I doing? And then again, we were fooling around in the studio, you do 4 tracks and then you comp. And,
mm-hmm.
The listeners that know how the studio works, even in Pro Tools these days, you do the same thing. You can put together what you want, and hopefully you make it believable. But back then, I almost wonder, if we cared. Well, that's exciting. Go. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm never going to be able to do that live. Forget 35 years later or 33 years later. So
exactly.
And, it's still all stuff to be proud of, but they head scratchers.
True.
Yeah. Yep.
Before Guitar Hack takes off here, I was telling him something off the air. This is something I don't know about you, and some of the diehard fans will know, but it's a real curious thing. Back in the day, I want to say the day, like the late, early 80s, mid 80s, whatever, George Lynch, he went over to Kramer Guitars and was talking to them about, possibly, working out some kind of a deal, whatever, and there's all kinds of folklore what happened there. It sounds like it was kind of slept overnight in a limousine in Kramer parking lot or something of the sorts. But anyways, fast forward not much longer, a couple days, weeks later, he, finds Matt from ESP and has a signature, I think probably the very first signature ESP guitar.
Right.
And I'm curious with you, because in your era, with especially KISS era, Kramer was like all over the place. Everybody wanted the Kramer. Did you ever talk to those guys? And if so or not, did it have anything to do with you landing ESP and being with them for until today?
Well, here's how it goes, and it's kind of it's a really great question, Eric, because it's actually something I'm only kind of like scratching the surface of and digging and learning and trying to remember. And I've been speaking to friends. What do they remember? People that came with me to this early ESP shops, people that worked there that I'm still in touch with.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a guy that I know in Phoenix who loves those guitars, the early M1s and the early ESPs and Kramers and Charvels and things like that. And there's stuff out there, and there's forums that know a little bit. But my experience, I think, was very unique. Okay, so here's my take on it, and without getting too long-winded about it. I was introduced, because I lived in New York, to some people that started to work for ESP. At the time, ESP was just a parts company, generally from Japan, just supplying parts, because people like to oh, my Fender neck, I don't know, give me a new one. Oh, I want to change the body, or I want to put this together, And that was pretty radical. And I believe ESP started by Mr. Shibuya back there in Japan. I think he could have even been in the late 70s, and I forget exactly that company started doing that, first in Japan, then maybe internationally. But the reason why I'm kind of getting into it is just that suddenly they have a presence in New York, okay? So I don't remember when they decided exactly, well, why don't we offer models, if you get what I'm saying, especially since this kind of Van Halen certainly showed the world that, no, I put that together. I took that body, that neck, I put a Floyd Rose, I routed it out, I put you know what I'm talking about. We all know. And when was the first Van Halen album? What year?
78 released.
Yeah. So why not by 84, 85 ESP to realize, wait a minute, we got strap bodies, we got necks. So for whatever reason, when they started to offer guitars and they were brand new, again, going from a parts company to now offering models with potentially giving it names and everything, you have to realize that, and I wonder if I have that thing still here. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'll prove that I've been into it lately. Okay. Here's one of the first price guides.
Yes, I saw that on your interview. You did a 2-part interview with ESP. That's beautiful.
So by the time, of course, and I probably had a model or two with them slightly before that, but and there's the price list, the different models they were doing and everything. So anyway, my friend's in New York, and I don't remember how I knew him. He could have worked for a local store or something, and he just says, hey, you should check out ESP, because I was already in KISS. So obviously they're going to ask me to go talk to them. I bought a blue Charvel in the window. I already played a parts Floyd guitar, which got me the gig in the band. I helped out on Animalize, and Paul said, don't cut your hair. Next thing I know, Mark definitely needs time off to heal. And there I am going to Europe. Okay. Wow. And there I am starting the American tour. And then they try to work Mark in, and then they realize, I think we got who we need. Okay. So they send Mark home. The gig is mine. Okay. So there I am with 2 Charvels. By the time the American tour happened, I had another one, the gold one, or maybe I think the gold one and the blue one came to Europe, and a black BC Rich. Okay. And that's all I really needed. And that was golden era of BC Rich, the early Eagles. I could talk about BC Rich for 3 hours, but forget that for right now. We'll stick with ESP. Anyway, the first guitar, probably for Asylum, all of a sudden I was still working a little bit, talking to Grover Jackson, asking him to make me things. So there I still had Charvels in the works. And I had designs, because they would do that. Those guitars are really rare, all those early Charvels and early Jacksons. But I really did like the neck. Why did I like the neck on the ESP? because they were kind of shaping it on early 60s. I felt they were shaping it on some of the best Fenders that I like.
Nice.
So I was like, whoa, okay, this neck is nice. This is friendly. Oh, it's an M1. It's a regular Strat body. You call it an M1, metal one, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Floyd Rose, yeah, one pickup. That's all I need. I'm a KISS, the texture, turn it down. That's all you got to do. You don't need the other pickup. So the next thing I know, I am with that flip flop blue, and then they're making me a multi swirl,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of ironic. I think I can show you one of the replicas here. Come here, you. This is like based on my multi-swirl model that
Right.
actually Paul contributed to, saying, why don't they do this? Try this for a finish, you know what I mean? And they did, and they nailed it. So this is one of the LTD models that I offered 24. They sold in a day,
Mm-hmm.
which was a miracle. And these came out great. I'm so glad. Look at even the back, right? And then you check out the parts are different, because
Yep.
complete the theme of the different colors. We figured, well, let's mix up the parts. Yeah, Floyd Rose, you can have chrome, you can have black, you can have brass. Let's do that. Even the nut.
That's becoming a common thing today. They're doing that with black with chrome.
And I would call this the very Asylum-y oriented version of a M1. And the flip-flop blue, which is not an easy finish, by the way. I'm still freaking struggling with that. Japan is making me one just as a thank you, Bruce. And I'll have to cherish that one. But if I could offer that, I would.
Nice.
I don't know if I can, because I don't know. In other words, Matt, who you mentioned before, Matt Mascandaro, I got to give a big shout out for. He's been the president of ESP a very long time, but he was my roadie back in Michael Bolton days, that long ago.
Isn't that absolutely crazy?
He and I have been very close for many, many years, and he's done a great job for ESP through all those years. But he actually said to me, he said, the guy who painted your flip-flop blue, he's retired or he's dead. We don't know who he is, So let's tie it back into Kramer, though.
Sure.
Glad I brought flip-flop blue. Kramer, occasionally you saw bodies that had that finish,
Mm-hmm.
that had it's kind of like a silver, there'd be like a metal flake in it, but it would change color slightly. It's very odd. My knowledge of Kramer, which is why I never approached them, was they supplied many, many parts for them.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, it didn't matter that it said, and please somebody can correct me, but my knowledge is for certain years of the 80s that I think we're talking about, you would see a Kramer neck plate and it would say Neptune, New Jersey or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That thing wasn't built there.
Yeah, of course not.
It was maybe assembled there.
Maybe, yeah, for some.
The parts, I even heard there was some Canadian sources too. For
Yes, yep.
necks and things like
There
that.
was.
Okay. But my favorite Kramers that I ever got my hand on and fooled around with, and I was aware of Richie Sambora getting involved with them, and then Lynch I still always saw as the poster guy for ESP,
Mm-hmm.
and he's done a fine job, and he still is, even though you're telling a story of him, winding up in the parking lot of Kramer, but we know that Eddie had parts from them and
Mm-hmm.
did actually perform with which is so similar to these ESPs with the big hockey stick headstock and or banana headstock, depending on how you call it.
Sure.
But Kramer, it's kind of a weird. For me, it was always I went to ESP. I dealt with ESP, and if I ever owned a Kramer, it was more like, oh, that reminds me of that, and I'd own one for a little while.
Sure.
But I didn't have to use them. I didn't have to go to them. Charbel and Jackson kept changing to the neck getting flatter and flatter, and then he sold it, and then all of a sudden Japan, they're being made in Japan. And they're called the Model 2. And some of those are actually nice, but then he doesn't make the Floyd Rose where it's supposed to go. And he's putting the Jackson Bridge, which is sorry, and the nuts past the the locking nut is past the actual nut and whatever. I don't know.
Well, I'm glad I asked it though, because
another thing I need to learn more about. Okay?
No problem. I dug under every rock. I've tried really hard to find that information out. So it's just a big passion, to kind of discover that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
well, thank you for sharing.
M1s and hockey stick headstocks. Here's the banana.
Oh, yeah.
All banana because of the Chiquita thing. Even though it kind of sometimes I refer to that headstock as like a banana.
Oh, yeah.
Notice the real thin one. You see that, right?
It is.
Let me put the rare Les Paul down. Hold on a second. Although all these babies are really special to me.
Yeah, before you drop it.
Yeah, and obviously, I'll be featuring, because this is big part of history. I held it on Crazy Nights and all.
On the back cover.
But yes, on the back cover. But I definitely will feature this on, for one of the guitars of the KISS Guitar of the Month. But now that was the early version of headstock. Ignore the little tuner thing. But just a strap body, one pickup. Years later, I put the drop D-tuner on it, right? And this one never. I did have in some of the earliest M1s the EMGs, because the repair guy Joe Pitchker in Long Island, who was very good at helping me, and I lived there, so that's why he was my go-to guy. He liked EMGs, and then later on I realized I don't know, maybe this Theriault, I like to go back to like a Duncan, who became very big too.
Sure.
So I was putting the custom pickup in it, sometimes custom. I love it. I actually haven't taken out that pickup. Though. I probably never did. This one came that way. But let me just see if it's in tune here. What's going on here? I should just do a drop D.
There you go.
But you can tell it's a very aggressive sounding guitar. All that kind of pingy stuff, But I definitely would have done, Crazy Nights with this. Those kind of things on this guitar, you could hear it, I'm in no shape to play this one today.
It's okay.
But you can hear that tone.
Oh yeah.
And these are just killer guitars. I just love this kind of M1 shape, and that's why I was so excited I did do a limited run of these first. I was kind of testing the waters, and then I wanted to evolve, and that's how the multi-swirl happened, and we'll see what happens in the future with that. I'm not actually a store, but I am handling it all myself with some help. It's complicated, what I mean, taking orders and working with the guitar company and providing, it's very important if I offer something that it's done right and to the best of my ability, make a package. I made mini guitars of these things. You might be able to see that on you see the little yellow one up there?
Oh yeah, we can. Yeah, mini.
And the multi-swirls behind there, so they're there, the multis. So anyway, I do really enjoy these, but I'm still learning, and I'm talking to a lot of people. And just one more point about it. In the same way that Kramer was putting together guitars from all the necks and bodies that they got from ESP and other sources potentially, not the neck through that they had got from the factory. They did a few models, I forget, American Standards or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm even wondering if that might even be ESP made. I'm not sure, but either way, this was just a body found that was on a rack or in a barrel, and the neck's in a barrel. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, what about this?
Surplus.
I like this body. So to think that. I was able to just pick out necks and bodies and have good luck with it, is pretty remarkable too. But, and nowadays, like, there are companies that still provide things like that, but that was a real interesting concept that I just realized that, and I have to thank Eddie Van Halen for that, if you think about it. Now, that guy, obviously he started out with Explorers and Les Pauls originally, he didn't build a guitar as his first guitar.
Nope.
He plays a mean Crossroads too,
Oh yeah, I know.
He was influenced by one of my heroes, Eric Clapton, of course. But the point is, these super strat bodies, one pickup, or and just the neck with the Floyd Rose. I've had 19 years with Grand Funk. I know you guys know that, but that's not a band that I've ever played a Floyd Rose with. Okay,
certainly,
it's just not really going to work. So it's just ironic though that now, I mean, some of that is part of the celebration of me playing KISS stuff, that I recognize, well, wait a minute. Oh, I got to use the whammy bar. Oh, let me pull out those guitars. Let me see what I can use. And through the years, there's various vintage pluses, which was the later kind of versions, so with 3 pickups that ESP offered. And I have quite a few custom ones. I've been doing a lot of work on some of the old ones, getting them really tweaked well. There's a local guy here that's great to help me with that stuff. But it's a challenge to find the right Floyd guitar. It just becomes that.
Well, the thing is, with the there's a resurgence right now, like massive resurgence with the single pickup guitar. And speaking of little guitars, here's one you'll appreciate here as well too, if you can see it on the camera here. This guy look familiar?
Yeah, of course.
Speaking of the man. But yeah,
I know that Charvel does well with a lot of different models. I think there's a lot of Jacksons too.
Mm-hmm.
There are, I am seeing them, but I'm, because I'm old school in a way, because of, like all of us, we want to, we have a connection to something in the past that drives them, that just makes you feel good. Just like when you see the Hendrix Strat, you go like, ooh, yeah, white Strat.
I know, right.
By the way, white M1 is also one pickup, and that was from Hot in the Shade and Revenge, but then I threw a tortoiseshell pickguard on it.
Yeah.
I did that because the Hendrix, he had a white one that had the tortoiseshell on it, not the Hendrix, Woodstock one, which was a maple neck and all. I actually do prefer rosewood more, but that's another one that I'll be able to share. But it's incredible, my desire to discover more M1s. And just today, somebody sent me an email going, I have a pretty early ESP. It's pretty rare. What do you think of it? And he sent the picture. It happened to be a 3 pickup one. It wasn't exactly this, but I'm like, wow, where did you buy that? Because I could tell it was like custom ordered. And I'm just fascinated with all of it. And I'm hoping this interview, I know you guys are a gear network, and I do belong to a few of the ones that talk about ESP guitars and everything. But to be honest, ESP is not always, they keep moving forward, and they're offering new models every year. So it isn't always about, I don't know about them ever. They don't mind making me some guitars to offer, my fans, but they're not going to just kind of do a resurgence necessarily of M1s. I think they should, but I'm not telling them what to do as long as they can provide some cool things for me.
That's right.
That's why I keep the relationship, and I'm very, very happy with it.
It's been really good for both of you for sure, and that shows a lot of loyalty as well too. I mean, that's what manufacturers like, that when you're not just jumping from manufacturer to manufacturer. Sure. But when you talked about when you showed a moment ago as well too, and actually before I say this, Guitar Hack, you are more than welcome. I hate to even I don't even want you to leave. I mean, you're one of the biggest KISS fans. If you want to stay for the evening, you have a full invitation to stay with us. So I'd love to have you. I got dinner plans. No problem. Okay, so
my voice will run out. Okay,
that's right. On the Asylum, the Asylum guitar that you sold, the 24, I'm just trying to find this question again as well too. This is from a buddy of mine, the Desk Chicken. That's what his handle is online.
Oh, wait a minute. I know that guy's email.
Yes, there you go. That's right. He says, will the next Kulick exclusive ESP, when will the next Kulick exclusive ESP LTD be? Just picked up my Swirl, and it sounds amazing.
He's got a multi-swirl. I remember that.
Yeah, and apparently you liked his video.
Yep.
So do you have more plans?
Yeah. I mean, some of them actually play. Not all of them. Can you sign it here? And it goes on the wall next to the one that Gene signed or Paul signed or whatever. Tommy, it's so funny. And Ace, it's really wild. Some of the collectors that I've met in the KISS world, and I get it. I mean, I collect things too, but it's always an honor when you see that. In the same way when they say, sign my arm, I'll go like, oh,
get a
what's
tattoo.
Going on here? It's so funny because I was just talking to Todd and Brent about it today because they were over here, Todd Kearns and Brent Fitz, fellow Canadians.
That's right, my boys.
Yeah, really terrific, talented guys. I kind of I think next week I'm going to ask ESP first about ordering more multi-swirls. I already have a list yay long that I know I may not have to advertise too much, if you get what I mean. If I could provide them for who, damn, I missed out. I just heard about it. What do you mean they're sold out? All that. Okay. So I'd like to do more of these because I think they're really special and unique, and the factory did such a great job. But it's a great question because, and it was, I don't remember if it was Todd or Brent that asked, but the other guitar that I pulled out for you guys, since you prepped me magically, remember we were psychic, I mentioned?
Oh, yeah.
would be they still offer a Horizon, okay, ESP, but this one's really nice that it's a Cherry Sunburst. This one, of course, is like a neck through because that's the way they made them in Japan. You can see that.
Maple down
so
the
this
center.
Is my original 87. That didn't say anything rude on it or anything. Sometimes my roadie would write crazy things. In the
Show me, you know what?
No idea if it's in tune. Let me just see what's going on here. This guitar, I did play something on it. Did I feature this one on my Guitar of the Month? I don't think so.
No, but you did an ESP two-part interview, though.
Yes, it was in that for sure, yeah. It's the one with the volume knob for the treble pickups in the wrong place. Okay.
There you go.
It's over here. But with Kiss, everything would have been full up anyway. So this is the bass pickup over here. Turn this down. That's the bass pickup. So. tune. It's great. Really cool, right? So there's a great video of me and wow, a lot of delay there. That everyone's asking about what amp I use. I fell in love with a Fender Super Champ XD when they offered it in like blonde. Okay, I see the guitar stand, I'm like, ooh, that amp sounds good. How much is it? And it wasn't a lot of money, and it's got tubes in it, right? They changed the formula a little bit on some of the later models. I think it's still a current model, okay, but they don't offer the blonde tweed. I mean the Total X-Wing blonde. But I own 3 of them because you know, my home. Instead of dragging one around every room, you know, I got one upstairs, one in the front, one over here, and that's what we rehearsed. You know, we've been jamming to. But these are great little amps, and they have effects built in, which is nice. You know, but that doesn't sound very modeling. You know, and there's a nice clean setting on it too. And it's funny, it's not like I'm a Fender endorser, but people sometimes ask, you know, what amp is that? Do, you know, real long delays like and then you can clean up the distortion on it. Here's like distorted channel. Anyway, love those little amps. They sound great.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Nice playing too, man.
Oh, thank you. I have no idea what I'm doing. And you know, some version like this. Now, it probably, you know, I have to discuss this with Matt, and there's a terrific guy there named Todd that works. He's the custom shop guy.
Okay.
And Todd, he's the guy that specs and goes to the factories and discusses, no, you need it like this, you got to do this. And he knows how meticulous I am. And so he'll work with me and we'll figure it out. You know, so after maybe I get more multi-swirls, I can move on to a version of a Horizon model, which made, I had a red one in KISS, had a black one that had radioactive symbols, which I still have. And I have this one. I had a few others that I let go of many, many years ago, but these are great workhorses, and they're not very. They still offer the Horizon model. They did some changes and everything. They do offer this, and there is an LT version of it. But I would then look at the way they're offering the LTD, and then fine tune it and try to get it as close as what mine looked like in 87 in that era. And then the other point of, you know, trying to tie it all in is, yeah, I was very specific and fans of certain things. Like if they make it all recessed now, well, no, put the Floyd on top. It doesn't have to be recessed.
Right.
That's the way mine were, you know. So I would see what I can do with them. But it could take, you know, it takes time. You know, all these 2 orders I made were a labor of love and a lot of time. But again, a big shout out and thanks to Todd and Matt for helping me out. And the success is great, and they're very happy with it. They do some runs for some of their artists too, like Kirk Hammett, I heard, did a very limited something of some, you know, one of his models, and it wasn't offered in the stores. It was sold like very quickly, you know, that way. So I'm hoping I'll continue. And it's funny you mentioned George earlier, because he's still involved with them, you know, all these years.
Big time, yeah, exactly.
Well, yep.
In a second, we're going to jump over to the Les Paul question, but I got a few fan questions here as well, too. I want to take care of those.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm going to let Guitar Hack, and you just kind of duke it out with some Les Paul questions, because I know you both, I mean, I love Les Paul, too, but he's the all-knowing burrito when it comes to Les Paul.
I'm just a guitar geek, so I love them all.
That's good. So
but, you know, now that people, I saw that 53, when they say, all right, you know, tell me your favorite instruments, you know, in the sense of a Les Paul or a stop bridge, there's no guitar that I've owned that has more kind of like vibe and tone than that. Now I have I got killer lots of things, other Les Pauls that sound amazing. That 56 Custom is a monster too. That's one of Eric Singer's.
That's what we're going to talk about next.
Junior Frankenstein, and he loves that one too. The KISS rented it when they did Psycho Circus, because I did some demos with Gene using that guitar, and we're like, we need that sound, Bruce. You know what I mean? And the next thing you know, well, yeah, I'm not going to charge you a lot, but like, you mind? And they got some gear from me, and I guess by then, I'm not sure if it was Paul or Tommy that played it, but they used it and they got the sound, because there is something about a guitar, even though depending on who plays it, it's going to sound different. But no doubt that a certain guitar's sonic, tone, the wood, a lot of it is in the body, but still your hands are going to bring it out.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Then the other guitar that I like to mention, if I said like, oh, you can only have two, well, then if I want something on the other side of the spectrum, it would probably be like that Banana, M1.
Yeah.
Even though it's probably the same strings from 92 or something on there. I don't think I've changed them in ages. But that guitar I just know is killer. And I've used it for some sessions in the past, probably not 5 years, maybe 10 years. But it's a great guitar.
Character all the way through, right?
Oh, yeah. No, it just has that tone, and it behaves. And, look, when you work with a lot of different people in the studio and different producers through the years, from a Neverson to a Ezrin, and the engineers, we always had, very, very talented people, and they all go like, yeah, that's it. You know what I mean? Like I have notes for the Yellow ESP all over the Carnival Solace production notes. I wish I had it for all the albums. Yeah. I don't. But I do remember it as a picture of me and Gene in the studio for Hot in the Shade. And the two guitars that you see in it, it's kind of funny. He's like doing this, kind of biting the guitar. It's the Banana, so the yellow guitar, and then the multi-scroll. I didn't even realize it until I always knew the yellow guitar was there, but because I held the multi-scroll was being held like that, you couldn't really see it well. And then I looked a little closer. I said, oh my God, those two guitars are in that picture. It's pretty funny.
That's so funny too, how we were talking about this earlier today. Like we were both saying, okay, so you said I could bring some more iconic guitars. I'm like, yeah, bring this and bring the Banana. And you're like, you were talking the same thing. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then the Horizon, I thought, because I still love these models and I'd like to introduce more of them. Even with Grand Funk, I do play one of the Korean H1001s. That's a great guitar. A little different headstock on it, but it's the same guitar. Not a Floyd though. It would be the strings through the body, which gives a great tone.
Exactly.
But I like to feel. I mean, to me, these Horizons are kind of a version of a Super Strat. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
And it isn't a ripoff or really modeled after a Jackson or anything like that. It's kind of unique to ESP. So I'm always going to be like, Horizon. Let's get some more Horizons out there. But and then I'm a huge fan. I have 3 Vipers sitting over there because I love the Vipers. Okay, which is the offset SG look.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I have. Out of the 3 rigs with Grand Funk, I have 2 of the rigs have that on there, maybe 3 now. Actually 3, yeah.
Todd was playing one of your nice Cream ones just yesterday or whatever. He was sharing a picture playing one of the Cream Vipers.
Yes, that he was playing one of the ones in the house. Correct.
Yeah,
okay.
Nice, very cool.
Those are great guitars. They're thicker than an SG. I know Matt helped design this for them, and I thought it was brilliant. They're more like a Strat thickness. Offset body, so there's no issues about it's an original shape, but double cutaways friendly, okay? And the run that they did that was white with the gold hardware, I just go crazy over it. To me, that's like a homage to the Les Paul SG Customs, right?
Sure.
Les Paul SG Custom with the 3 pickups and gold hardware. And they didn't do that well for them, or people. I think they only made them for about 3 years. And I love those guitars; they're great.
Guitar Hack, do you have anything to say about the gold hardware?
It tarnishes cool. Don't you agree?
Well, I'm not a fan of the gold, but after a while it doesn't look goldy anymore, so it's all right.
Yeah, and you go, it's the beauty of it. But don't you agree? Well, look. All right, so I'll ask you a question. Can I be interviewer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Go ahead.
Now, we all know a Les Paul Custom, and most of the Gibson line that is custom will have gold hardware because it's the top of the top.
Right.
So do you not own a black Les Paul Custom?
No, I do not.
But if you were going to buy one, you felt like
actually
they do make some with chrome parts.
Somebody just sent me one with chrome today to look at. I'm like, this is perfect.
I have a friend too. He's just a guitar nut. He's not a big player, but he only wanted a Gibson Les Paul Custom with the chrome, not
with
the
chrome, yeah.
But I have like a gorgeous 355. You know, I shared that one. 1960. It's gold. You know. So, but I understand that. But I do think the gold's best on probably black and white guitars. And then, of course, I mean, look at Prince's guitar, the Cloud thing, whatever that was.
Yeah.
I do think that, yeah, when they're on, let's say, a sunbursty thing, maybe that's a little odd. But my 345, if I showed you that, you'd love it, okay? Because that's another one with gold hardware from Gibson.
What about the Les Paul Jr., Bruce?
The one I had, yeah, I mean, I owned quite a few of them through the years, and the only one I actually kept, because the other ones were original, and because of the small frets and everything, and a stop bridge, not that usable to use anywhere else. Okay, so I actually sold to a friend of mine in Tennessee, the last one that I had, but I still have what I call the Frankenstein one. Okay, and it was a you know, that name got kicked around with a couple of guitars, a Strat that was put together from different parts, but it was also I walked into Guitars R Us on Sunset Boulevard back in the 90s, probably early 90s. And Alfred there, I think his name was, Albert. And I go like, what is this? And it was a really beat to hell. Some punk guy probably had this. There were hammer marks on that Junior. The neck didn't look right. It looked like it might have been redone, reset. The headstock there were a lot of weird things about it, okay? And the bridge was really screwy. Okay, someone put a bridge I never even understood that made it practically not playable. And he said, like, oh, get that thing out of my sight. I don't want to even look at it. I said, can I check this out? I have a badass at home. I want to put the bridge on it and try it. Okay, he was like, just take it home. Let me know if you like it. You know. And then I heard it, and I was like, oh my God, I get it. They didn't have the right bridge on it, but. And then I think for a whopping $400, you know, I owned it, right? And then I'm sure I probably had a little work done to it, but it was a beast. And that thing wound up being a big part of it. Was used on Carnival of Souls quite a bit. Don't think it was around for Revenge, but it played a lot of important things. And that's that beat up Relic Junior. This is this boutique company that makes a lot of Les Paul Juniors and double cutaway ones called Rock and Roll Relics. Very good company.
Yeah.
I own a few of their guitars. And he wanted to do a replica of that, which he was in LA at the time and I lived there, so it was easy for him. Actually, no, I think he was up in the Bay Area then, but I still trusted him enough to like, here you go, take care of the guitar. So he had it for a while, he spec'd it out, and we offered it. It was a very limited number, you know, and only one place online would sell it, never went to any stores. And some people couldn't figure out, why is it Relic that much? I said, that's what it looked like. Trust me, okay? I don't know why someone took a hammer to it, you know, like the back control cavity had like a piece of, you know, it should have been Bakelite, but the plastic thing was not even, it didn't fill the thing, you know. It was just like placed on there. It was crazy. So many wacky things, shower tuners, it was weird, but man, that guitar really worked out great. I used it for the Revenge tour. It went on tour with me. It had a great weight and a great tone, and like I said, that one really was very memorable tone-wise when I took it into the studio with Eric Singer. He's a guitar nut anyway, which is great. You know, I love that. This feedback for that. But yeah, that's a cool guitar. So I still have that one. It's still yet to be done in my KISS Guitar of the Month. All right, you want to take some questions from the people?
Yeah, for sure. There's a couple here. One of our regulars that watches both of our shows, Hellface, he says, and this is something I have no idea about. I never profess to know everything about anything, and so I don't know this. He says, serious question, did Paul Stanley ever try to get Bruce to play Steinberger?
No, I mean, he never said, hey, check it out, play it. In fact, that came up recently because me and the guys were talking about the Crazy Nights tour. I showed them. Again, I'm always archiving. I can't help it. And it's endless. It's just like ridiculous.
Right. I
have bins of stuff. So I found a bin that had I think it was the auction book. You know about that? The Butterfield auction. And that's got a lot of crazy pictures. And I could not believe it that I stumped. You know, it was actually Todd and Zach. Excuse me, because Brent wasn't available yet to come over. And they were flipping through it and they go, like, what is that? You know what I mean? Looking at things, you know. And in that book, though, my brain is now in the auction book. What was the point? Was the Steinberger?
Yes,
so there was a photo And then that discussion came up, and everybody was like, yeah, I didn't die. What was he doing with that thing? You know what was a miracle about those guitars? It actually didn't sound bad, but it never go out of tune. Ever. You know, they had this crazy system, Steinberger and
Transtram.
I mean, it's still out there or whatever, but and then you could change keys on it. That it wasn't used too much for that, but possibly in the studio where Paul, because Paul would get creative with the tunings, and instead of a capo, maybe could fool around that way too, you know. So yeah, but I wasn't a big fan of it. But no, I'm Paul can wear just about anything and look cool.
Of course he can.
From the painted BC Riches to the Les Pauls to the all the, of course, the Ibanez and the Washburns and everything he went through. You know, come on. But there's no doubt that that was an odd one. But it did fit in with what the style of what we're presenting as a band. You know, and I noticed through my tours and through my albums and the eras, you know, the different looks of the clothes and the guitars and the guitar straps, which is something I want to get involved with, where I love some of my guitar straps, and sadly I don't have many of them anymore, but I'm going to be working with a great guy to help offer some straps on a limited basis to people. So that's going to be fun.
Nice. You know? Well, a few guys back in that
I
area.
won't be offering Steinbergers, but I guess I could offer body glove stickers.
Hey, there you go.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, a few guys that were during your era, I mean, that really popularized that guitar. I mean, look at Alan Holdsworth, obviously Eddie Van Halen, Vito Bratta, you know, really took it, you know, and there's others as well, too. It was a very cool guitar, but that's cool just to ask. And Hadley Scott McIntyre asked a question. Now, obviously, leading up to the reunion tour, you know, Ace is on stage, Tommy's there, or that was Kiss Kruise and stuff like that, too. But he's asking, did you associate with Ace much, you know, maybe before the, you know, the reunion thing? Because Ace, we credit Ace here on the show a lot as a guitar hero to us. Like, I'm an Eddie Van Halen diehard nut, but I have to say Ace was first. You know, and Ace was so iconic in so many people's lives. It's pretty remarkable. And that's the power of Kiss. But Ace's impact through the Kiss group and the songs and the vibe is very important. You know, no, my relationship with Ace is really interesting because basically I knew of him, of course. And I know the legendary story of Bob, my brother, you know, auditioning the same day, but then they liked Ace, you know, but and then of course Ace had whatever what they wanted, and it worked. Obviously, why would he be so, you know, infamous and famous? You know, he's both. You know, he's certainly a character. But by the time the Unplugged thing, that was, I don't even know if I had any run-ins with him before that. So when he swaggered into SIR for the rehearsals, because we were going to play together, and they of course were going to do a couple of songs just with the original four. It was pretty surreal, you know. It was interesting. And then past that, I went to see them on the reunion tour. I can't say I had a lot of chats with them. I would say it's more in the last few years that I've had more conversations with them. I remember once getting to chat with him a bit at a Grammy Museum when he did a special album release party. It was one of the solo records, but that could be already like, you know, 8 years ago. I can't remember which one. But more recently, you know, he did The Vault with Gene, and then of course he was on last year's cruise, and I wound up getting interviewed with him. I practically was interviewing him. It was pretty fun. But we also, you know, we've had a lot of conversations lately about something that I'll let him tell everybody about. But I'm pretty excited that we've always remained, you know, like, you know, I can't say he's my buddy that we chat about things, okay? But we've always had that respect for each other, and I love that he's never said anything. It's easy for there to be like the controversy about the former and current guitarists, certainly,
and then some of them, you know, don't get along and say things about each other, and you know how they fight, you know, meaning, you know, the things that you'll read on occasion from an Ace or a Peter against Gene and Paul. That's them, okay? But there's always been that respect with Ace and myself, and I appreciate that. And I just know that moving forward, that I like that we've been respectful, but not in each other's faces or anything like that. Oddly enough, our influences are tremendously similar, even though we don't sound at all alike.
Right.
Loved Hendrix. He loved Jimmy Page, Zeppelin. You know, he loved guys like Eric Clapton and people from The Who and bands like that. You know, he grew up in the British invasion like I did. So we have that similar influence. and it's all over, all his iconic KISS things. Although Ace had just a certain swagger in his playing that was very unique to him, and I think it made him. I know, people like John Five, that's his hero.
Oh, yeah.
Dimebag loved him, and so you got to give the guy a lot of credit for all that kind of love from these people and iconic people that went on and have great careers too.
It's Guitar Hack and I talk about this all the time. He talks about it in his show, and I talk about it on my show. And I mean this in the utmost respect to Ace Frehley, because I mean he's the reason why I picked up a guitar. I discovered other people after. But and he doesn't have the Yngwie Malmsteen school of chops. He doesn't have that book. He's got, I don't even want to use the word limited vocabulary. That's not correct to say, but he doesn't have the Yngwie Malmsteen chops. But you get these people, these amazing players out there that would do tributes to KISS and things like that. And they, even as good as they are, they don't pull it off like Ace does. And I think you're one of the guys in KISS. I know when you took over the reins, I mean, not only did you do an utmost respect nod to Ace, you didn't try to overdo it. You put your own flavor into it. Right. But what do you think it is about him with his vocabulary of chops that only he can do? That really sound like Ace. You said swagger, but he's got something about him.
Yeah.
Well, his feel is very behind the beat.
Right.
And very, he also, he's got a really large hand. You know what I mean?
Okay.
and even the way, like, I've watched him play sometimes, and it's odd to me. You know what I mean? And in some ways, he doesn't really, like we talk about especially when I've given lessons to people, because some people will just learn online and are doing everything like that. And that's not the way you play rock.
No.
It's got to, you should be angling and everything. So I find that he probably has a little less of that angle of mine, but he'll still play, the same, in the same positions. But then I think also the way he picks and attacks, and then the way he kind of, puts he'll make every note count in a different way, even the ones that he doesn't make. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I guess that's part of the swagger, and I think Tommy does a really good job of getting the essence of Ace played, but a bit more precisely, of course.
Okay.
And I was never given that direction by Gene and Paul, because again, my era, we were competing with not that they didn't respect Ace or something, but we were moving on to material that was much different from the early KISS stuff, and bands like Van Halen and then that guitar playing, and people like Warren DeMartini and George Lynch and all those people were really important on what you hear on the radio. So I remember Paul telling me when I was offered, said, like, we'd like you to join the band officially now. I want you to be competitive with all the modern playing and everything. It wasn't simply like, and please try to play like Ace more. You know what I mean? Because I'm not in character or anything like that. So I appreciate you saying how you could tell I was respectful of his, the essence of what he was trying to do, but I didn't have to, play it note for note. So.
Right. Very well said, and that's very kind of you, and very professional too, to speak about Tommy that way. I told Hack I was going to say this as well too, and this, I like to embarrass myself sometimes. I tend to do that often. And at Winter NAMM, Hack knows what I'm going to say in this, and I like to keep it real by saying things like this. So Winter NAMM, this past NAMM, Tommy's walking around the corner, and you've been one of my favorite guitar players. I have to say, I love Ace. I'm not going to lie, I love Ace. But
that's why you got a guitar.
That's right. I love you as a musician as well too, not just for KISS. But Tommy's walking around the corner. It's been a long day. I've been videotaping all day with different people, and he walks around the corner. I'm like, Bruce. And I'm wondering why he's not looking at me. But, I could just sweep that under the rug. No one would know about it. But it's like, what?
I just hung up on the phone with him. I'm sorry, Tommy.
I'm like, man, that guy's so stuck up. He didn't even look back at me. Meanwhile, it's not Bruce. No, I love that as well too. We've got about 15 more minutes, and we'll let you fly here too. I'm going to try to get to some more questions too. But we've got KISS Kruise coming up October 30th, and a couple of our Canadian buddies, as you mentioned earlier, Todd Kearns, who's on my show about 2 weeks back, Brent Fitz. My better half, Sandra here, knows him through Theory of a Dead Man. She followed him across that band across Canada. But tell us about KISS Kruise. I'd like to know, I know it's the 9th annual, but what is it like for you as the performer? And you can tell us about the band that you've got assembled. And what is it like for fans that are lucky enough to get a ticket on this event?
Well, obviously, if you're a KISS fan, this kind of a cruise is really magical. I mean, it would be like being at Disneyland for KISS for 5 days. You know, no matter where you go, you're celebrating KISS, and I was blown away how they pipe in the music and you do a lot of walking on a cruise. Any you guys done it, to get from one end of the boat to the other, you're walking. But the music's always pumping. Everything is a celebration of KISS, and it's very fabulously done. Six Man does. That's the promoter of the boat. Of course, they do other kind of events on cruises, but they're so pro. They work great with the band, of course, and I think if you're a fan, I know like obviously some fans are fortunate enough to be able to fly to the port city and get on the boat and enjoy it, and it isn't really cheap. But for some people, that's their one vacation of the year. Okay, right. But then of course there's those people that will never be able to do it, or the people that repeatedly saying it's true. And anyone that's thinking about doing it in the future should really consider it. And you can bring a family and all that. It's not like awkward. And you have all those fun things about a cruise. You're out in the ocean. The food is like 24/7, whatever you want. There's enough activities that you're going to have to pass on one to do the other. Okay?
Right.
So it's a great thing.
And just before the show tonight, you were rehearsing.
Sorry.
Just before the show tonight, you were rehearsing for it as well, right?
Yes. And of course, on the sense of what it is for me. Okay. Obviously, being hired to be, a performer on the boat, I have a very specific job. Okay. I have a very unique connection, of course, with the band, being the guitarist for those 12 years, and my era was very unique, also. Okay, stylistically. Okay, because a lot of it, is not part of it in any way. The makeup era and sound, or what you image. If you're going to hear a Tears Are Falling, you're not going to think of any era of KISS, you're just not, other than my era. Okay. You're not going to envision a makeup thing or a stage set that way. You're going to see Asylum, or even maybe even you'd see a Hot in the Shade stage or whatever. So my goal is to just be very specific about my years with the band, or anything I've performed live with the band that people know. Now, of course, I've done Detroit Rock City a million times with them, but that's not going to be a song on my set list. No. It doesn't need to be. Okay. And they do it, and it's a big part of their show, so it doesn't make any sense. But what I am approaching this coming cruise differently, and you guys are kind of getting the exclusive here first, is just that I recognized, when last year, and I went really deep with Todd, Zach, and Brent, and Zach's my secret weapon because he's also a great bass player and he can sing like Gene. So now the Gene songs are covered, nice. And as Todd Kearns can do Paul's kind of vibe of my era, which is more hair metal, all that wildness, right? And then Brent can play anything, so he's got any of the KISS drummers covered, right? Right. But I realized, actually, first of all, technically September 30th was my first gig with the band in 1984. So if you are a mathematician, you'd know that's 35 years ago. Yeah. Okay. And that's pretty remarkable, and I'm quite proud of it. I'm shocked by it in every way, of course. I just can't believe where all the time go, and it does seem like a lifetime ago, but 35 years is a long time, okay? But there's so much cool stuff that happened then. Of course, I walked into the band with Eric Carr, and there we are going to Europe, and I'm there for 6 weeks, and I'm suddenly part of one of the really famous bands of the world, and it's first class everything, limousines, best hotels. The fans are wild. I'm being escorted like I'm in the Beatles. It was just insane. All right, great memories though, and a lot of pressure too, because it was just like all of a sudden, now I'm playing guitar with KISS. I did have some exciting things prior in my career, but I would not be featured in Meatloaf the same way. Right. I was not. Yeah, Blackjack with Michael Bolton. We had like 3 weeks on the road with some cool gigs, but it's still. Outside of the albums, it wasn't that like now I'm like performing with KISS, you know what I mean? So it was really an incredible thing. Now that Animalized Live video obviously had many interesting songs from both Animalized and the Lick It Up album, and sometimes other things too. But Todd and the guys and myself, we're digging into that beginnings of my KISS years, which I didn't look at all for the previous tours, okay, on cruises, okay, not at all. because there were too many other things to look at, you know. So we're starting with that. In fact, today, right before we started this thing, we finished up tightening up what I would kind of refer to as the Animalized medley. Why a medley? Well, generally you're only booked for sets that are 75 minutes because there's that many things on the cruise. Lots of great bands on this cruise too.
Got to keep it tight, kind of thing.
You know, and you saw those. So in that 75 minutes, I want to make the maximum impact. I want to serve up as many great memories for these fans, and I know they have many. It's been a complete, mind. Can I say the word F? You know the one. For me, listening to this stuff, So we're going deep and delving into it. As long as I've played it live or recorded it with them and played on it, it's fair game to me. I'm being strict about it.
Sure.
And we're already discussing another one of the unreleased songs that a lot of fans know. I'm not going to say which one yet.
Sure.
That we want to do. So it's really going to be once again a celebration of how I feel. The years that I helped be a part of, that I was so fortunate to experience. That's what I want to concentrate on. So it's really we're thrilled. And I'll be honest, we started from scratch with a list. Brent hit me up with like 3 lists, but I remember focusing only on one from a guy in Argentina. And his list was like, the first time I looked at it, I was like, what? You know what I mean? I just couldn't believe what was on it. But then as we went down it, I'm like, wow. Oh, yeah. Whoa, that's pretty good. Yeah, these are, so you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now, we still want to do some things that we did, previously. So I can't do exactly that list, and it was too many songs anyway.
Of course.
But this is the other reason why I need to do medleys, because I'd rather play a solid couple of minutes of a song and then move on to another instead of doing the full 4 minute of the song, just so that all those memories of hearing that song and then actually hearing it live by a solid group will be satisfied.
Well, sometimes the medley is better.
I mean, even my wife just hearing us rehearse one of the little segue things into something, and I ain't giving it away, but she was just like, oh my God, I was crying. That was unbelievable. You went from that to that, and oh, come on. And I know I get goosebumps when we look at some of these things, except now we have the hard work of really tightening it up and making it presentable. But this was the first, approach to what do we want to do? How can we, even take that kind of concept of my era and make it fresh and yet still make it, you can't please everybody, but I know there's going to be some songs on that list that everybody will talk about.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Cool. And our last 6 minutes we have here, I want to do 2 things really quickly, and I'm going to let Guitar Hack wrap it up here in a second. Again, Guitar Hack, I know we weren't planning on another question from you, but the floor is yours. If you can think of something you want to talk to Bruce about before we go, we'll close out with you. But one thing I wanted to just do, if I can ask a favor of Bruce, I've got a good friend here in the chat. His name's Gary Holt, not that Gary Holt. He's not that Gary Holt.
Personally, but I know he's an ESP.
But we talked earlier about Kramer guitars, and Gary is a very good personal friend with Gary Kramer of Kramer. Oh, wow. And Gary, between this, Gary, he invited me out to got to be friends with Gary Kramer. He let us stay at his estate for a few days, and we did an interview out there and everything, all that good stuff. But besides all that, the most important thing is it's Gary's birthday today, Gary Holt's birthday. I wonder if we could get a nice happy birthday wish from Bruce Kulick to Gary Holt.
Sure. Well, Gary, happy birthday. My amp's still on. I could do a little. Oh, that's a horrible. Jesus. There you go. I even got to play guitar with a delay on it.
I love it. There you go. Happy birthday, Gary. He's a great gentleman. He's a good friend to a lot of us, and he's the spirit of this community. So happy birthday, buddy. Guitar Hack, I'm so happy to have you stay on for the whole show tonight. I know how much the KISS means to you.
The whole time. I thought he had a pressing appointment or something.
I'll let you take if anything you want to say.
I was just here for the one question and
question.
Hung out. No, it was awesome. It was awesome talking to you, Bruce.
Well, thank you. And now I know you don't like gold parts. Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets teased about it a lot.
So on the KISS Kruise.
Gold parts. Okay.
Oh boy. On the KISS Kruise, Bruce, is your brother participating again this year? Are you guys going to be playing again together?
He did. It was KISS Kruise 7 where we did a set where we split half, some of his contributions with KISS, which are terrific songs. I mean, you can't.
Oh, they're awesome.
Deny that material. And then of course I was representing. We only got to do one set. It was a very weird invite, but we pulled off a great set, and that's how Todd and Brent were involved. And we'll see what happens in the future for him with the cruise. But no, this KISS Kruise 9 will be much closer to KISS Kruise 8. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Those guys, and it will be, as I gave you the menu of the goal, with the set list will be quite interesting. I think he is involved with one of the what's remarkable about the cruises too is like Ace and I know my brother and Sebastian Bach are all at this event the night before the cruise.
Yeah.
Those things sell out and they're like gigantic, you know what I mean? It's like really wild to think. So I know that the fans that may be thinking about him for a cruise should definitely, go see him. It's in Miami. There's 2 days there, and definitely give a shout out to my brother. There's no doubt. But the, and then Ace, isn't on this one, so he's there. But those events, the people that put that on, they have nothing to do with, I believe, the actual cruise. But it's a free country. You can, you create an event, a party before the party.
Yeah.
You don't have to, go out on the water. Some people. So anyway, so there's always that opportunity for everybody.
Oh, fantastic. By the way, reach out to Bob as well, too, hoping to get him on the show in the coming weeks or months as well, too, and talk some more with him as well, too.
Oh, he's got great stories. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Bruce, listen, I want to thank you from both of us here, from Guitar Hack and myself, and all of our viewers here, that we share a lot of the same, pretty much all the same viewers. We're both broadcast here from Canada. We both love guitar. I love Les Pauls now, thanks to Guitar Hack, and thanks to you as well. And I hope all the continued rehearsals go great for the cruise. I hope the cruise is fantastic. I know you got good people behind you. You surround yourself with greatness, and you become great. And just very, very kind of you to take your time for a little show like this, and we greatly appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm always a little shy about the long video interviews. I did watch it a little that you had Todd, and I knew you were legit. And it was kind of funny because I'll put that in a little part of my brain or a little note. Oh yeah, interview. But as soon as I forget when it was when you mentioned. By the way, it's gear oriented, and that Les Paul, and I was like, oh, we're going to talk about equipment for 90 minutes. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
I was telling you guys earlier that I'm trying to delve more into the ESP thing. So I've had long emails with people, and of course the phone calls with people. Trying to piece the puzzle together of my past. But the couple of things coming up. First of all, I love my website. It's a simpler WordPress kind of style, BruceKulick.com, which is a miracle because years ago I didn't have that, but a fan that was very kind to me heard me complaining about it with Chris Jericho on an interview. Yep. The next thing he knows, he's emailing me. I'm gifting you that name, BruceKulick.com. I'm like, really? You know what I mean? I was like, kind of like, this is cool. I did get to meet him, and that was wonderful. He's a Norwegian fan that set it up for me. So that's how you can see there's great galleries up there of photos, and there's these Guitar of the Months, the KISS Guitars of the Months will be up there. And then, of course, if you're interested in any of the items that I have in the merch store, I have my Gene Simmons moment here. Okay, so I do offer. Now, I don't necessarily offer when I'm doing a limited run of LTD ESP guitars. I don't necessarily put them up on the website.
Sure.
But I'm just saying it's a fun thing to look at. I'm pretty proud of the site. There's great stuff there. I am aware Facebook and Instagram and social media seems to be a really popular place for everybody. And as much as it can be a little overwhelming, it is the way we all share what's going on in our lives and what we're up to. So I do put events up there, and I recently put up something how there's an app called Meathook that you can take a lesson from me, okay? And that's a nice professional way to do that. I've also done some things with some apps called Cameo, and another one that if you wanted that birthday shout out, there's a way to request that, okay? So I like doing that stuff as much as, I don't want to do it while I'm making a cup of coffee in the kitchen.
Of course.
Okay, I try to present myself the way I would think they would expect me to be, but I do enjoy that. And in addition, of course, I do love teaching because I do love guitar and
of course.
Explain to someone, I would never play it that way,
That's right.
You got your hand all wrong or whatever it is, But I do have some good new merchandise coming up. Some of it's tied into the Animalize celebration that I'd like to share with everybody.
Nice.
again, it's just mind-boggling to think 35 years, like what? This is crazy. I mean, there's always these anniversaries. I remember when I celebrated the Crazy Nights, being a certain number of years and everything. It might have been 25 a few years back. But I'm really excited about that now, and I want to embrace it as much as I can. Obviously, I will look at other guitars to offer the people. And nobody should forget about, of course, the Grand Funk Band that if we're playing nearby. I always see fans out there with KISS shirts on. It's kind of funny. I think some of them know of Grand Funk, but they don't realize how many of those songs sound familiar, and they realize, oh, that was Grand Funk.
Song, yeah.
And I get to like solo in almost every song. So the ones that maybe don't get it, some people ask for meet and greets, and the band doesn't really do that. But there are sometimes ways that I can help possibly see them. I really do love the band. Tremendous players. We get along fabulously, and it's 19 years now. That's pretty insane.
Almost 20 years.
And the band's celebrating 50 years. So for me to have that gig with Don and Mel, the original drummer and bass player, all these years is remarkable. And for those Mark Farner fans, I get it. If you're like, I don't get it, but you got to see our version, because Max Carl is one of the most solid singers I've worked with ever in my entire life. And we got this keyboard player, Tim Cashin, that's a killer, who also sings like a bird. And then you got Don, who wrote and sang quite a few of the songs, from Something Wonderful to, of course, We're an American Band and Shining On, Walk Like a Man, and these are great, great songs. So it's a great show. Grand Funk. There's a link on my site for Grand Funk, but it's just grandfunkrailroad.com, and the official site comes up. See if we're playing nearby. A lot of them are fun outdoor gigs or casinos that it's not a big hassle. There's no big Ticketron fees. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah. But come see the American Band. We kick some ass, and I get featured quite a bit, to be honest. So
that's good.
Cool.
That's good.
And what's to come? The last thing I did want to mention, I would love to. I don't. Obviously I'm prepping now, killer set lists for the cruise, but these guys are really special. They're all very busy in a lot of different things. A couple of them go off on these slash tours that I go like, how do you do that? I don't even understand. They're gone for, 3 months, and visiting 30 countries, it's like, what? But they do it. Anyway, but I've always had a couple of songs kicking around that are not that old, and some new things that I pop up with. And I do have this aspiration to want to record with them, because I do feel, instead of me just doing a solo thing and get some guest singers, I see a lot of excitement personally, and that I could share with the fans to present some of these songs, and I couldn't have a better band, So that's something that's like, it's in the forefront of my mind, but I do need to like categorize the, to be successful, you do really need to understand the timeline of how you can get from A to B and accomplish those things.
Exactly.
And I don't want to, take away too much time from something really important that I know is coming up with a firm deadline, and put too much attention that way. So looking at the schedule now that everybody has with all their work commitments and everything, it may not happen until after the cruise that we get a chance to record, but it's on my radar. And if it's on my radar, that means I'm serious about it. That's all.
Cool.
That's good to know.
The guitar thing is an obsession for me. Conversing with the fans, sharing my love of guitar and music and the KISS years, and everything to do with this fantastic journey I had for those years. And now I feel like I'm writing new chapters as well. And it's all really, really wonderful.
Very well said. Very well said.
Very happy. But thank you, and thank you for the invitation.
No problem. Listen, we're just over the time stop, but I want to say 3 things lightning fast. One's from a fan here as well too. But number one, something else about the meat hook. Not only can people take lessons, but let's say someone's a bass player, they don't want to take guitar lessons, or maybe they're a drummer, but they want some career mentorship or a manager or whatever.
Absolutely.
You could do that.
There are people that don't. They're clueless what to do with their band or their career to get better or whatever.
Yep.
And I've had enough experience.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's not easy. It's almost like musicians don't really come with that handbook. You know
I
You
know.
go to school to be a doctor, although you probably do learn a lot once you're really there doing it and seeing all the permutations that come up. in reality, but they're pretty well trained. I don't know if think musicians are ever trained quite the same way.
You need that business side too, which you can help. The second thing is, you talk about your website. I build websites for a living, and so looking at your website, I love it. We've shared your website here tonight as well too, so all those good things, phenomenal there. And there's a very good question, and this is probably a very loaded question. This is from VH 1984. When is Bruce playing with KISS on the end of the road tour? Do you think that Gene and Paul might reach out?
I love ending with that one, okay? Well, look, my relationship with those guys is very good, as everyone knows. And it may just happen when they finally figure out that last big, event, okay? Because I know of no other answer to give other than they know I'd love to help them out if they have that platform and they figured out how to introduce me or incorporate everything, So I actually, there's a part of me that really feels pretty confident that something like that is a reality that could happen. Okay, where and when and how, I can't even guess. Okay, I mean, because it's too mind-boggling.
Sure.
Obviously, there's a lot of theories and people kick it around and everything, and I don't want to rule out anything, but I just know that I think it would be I think fans would really love it, and I know those guys would probably are serious about considering it, but I just don't know how it will happen and when.
Right.
That's all.
I hope it happens for you. I hope it happens.
I think everyone that wrote you a question, I've seen emails from these people. You know what I mean? They either bought a guitar from me, or I gave her a lesson to. It's crazy. Anyway, small world, right?
I do hope it happens for you. I mean, it would be very nice for you as well, too.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Listen, we're going to let you fly. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we're going to say goodbye. We'll say goodbye to you off the air. Everyone, we hope you have a fantastic weekend as well. Be safe out there, and we'll look forward to seeing you.
Be good to your people, and crank up the music as long as it doesn't hurt. That's what I'll say.
That's rock and roll, man. Have a good one, Bruce. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Until next time, cheers.
Hey, you're still here? Eric Jr. here, reminding you to check out our full lineup of quality merch. Available right now in the Broadstash Boutique. Quality products and fast shipping. Visit broadstash.com today.
Video production services for Rock Shop Live are provided by Design 39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs. Microphones for Rock Shop Live are provided by Rode Microphones.